Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. Let us be careful not to let principles get in the way of reality, and let us be careful not to allow reality to cloud our principles. So we have to be objective about this, mustn't we? Well, let's hear what Trollface has to say at 1 hour, 8 minutes, 38 seconds, 2 hours of tariff talk.
If we're not at war, it's none of your business, and it's none of the government's business who I'm trading with, period.
Alright, so he thinks it is legitimate for us to not trade with a country with which we're at war, but that we should be able to trade with countries with whom we are not at war. So we do not disagree on principle here. Our principles, the principle of a country that you're at war with is obviously trying to violate your rights, so you don't want to do anything that would ever benefit them. So we agree in the principle here. Now, applying that principle to reality, Trollface, Diego, sir, is there never, ever going to be a situation or a time when you are not at war with a country, but that country is so violent and despicable that you don't want to do anything to prop up the regime? Could that happen? Now, if that can happen, then the application of our principle of individual rights, upholding individual rights and freedom, that principle is going to have to be applied to every single situation we face. And we're going to have to ask, in each situation, how does our principle apply to this situation? For example, Iran. We're not at war with them, and yet we won't allow them to buy or sell oil. There's an economic embargo on them, and we are not at war. North Korea, the same thing. Severe economic sanctions on North Korea. We're not at war. So is there a time when a country is so dangerous, when the regime is so violent, that we should prevent trade with them? If so, then you're going to have to apply your principles as you go through the world. You can't just apply them in a platonic way. So, that's what I think we're getting down to here. Now, Diego says that he's just started studying objectivism about 4 years ago, so he's not been at it as long as I have. I'm coming on 25 years of studying it now. So, Diego, I think we agree in principle. You just think that you can apply the principles without looking at reality. I believe that if we look at reality, each individual case, then we'll be able to apply our principles just fine. But I don't think that you can apply principles without looking at reality. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to say, screw all of the grayscale stuff. It's black and white. Either we're at war with them, so we don't trade, or we're not at war with them, so we do trade. It's an on-off switch, right? Well, that's the principle that we start with. And then we go out into the world, and we look at the world, and we say, oh, well, here's a country that's extremely violent and dangerous. And it's into trading illegal guns and drugs all around the world. It finances itself through counterfeiting money. Now, you can argue that all these guns should be legal to trade, drugs should be legal to trade, the government shouldn't be coining money. But the fact is, here you've got a country that makes its living by breaking laws. That's what it does. It's a pirate country. And you're not at war with it. So the principle you're using then is war. If we're at war, don't trade with them. The principle I would use is individual rights. If they violate individual rights, don't trade with them. So I wouldn't trade with Saudi Arabia or Iran. Now, I know that we're trading with Saudi Arabia just because of the massive amount of oil there. In my opinion, we really went off the rails with Saudi Arabia when we allowed them to nationalize the infrastructure that us and Britain had built over there. That's my opinion of that situation. We shouldn't have allowed them to nationalize it. We should have either destroyed it or declared war to preserve our material, our rights. All right, so now I'm off on Saudi Arabia. But that's what we should measure here. We should be measuring based on individual rights. And we should have elected representatives who, according to a body of laws written by elected representatives, determine whether any given country is or is not a threat to the United States. By and large, I'm in favor of free trade. I just don't know why we would ever trade with anybody who is a threat to us. For example, China or Saudi Arabia. I don't think we should be trading with them. Not that we shouldn't have the oil in Saudi Arabia. They were a bunch of damn camel jockeys when we got over there. Bunch of damn sand monkeys sitting around in tents, riding their camels around lakes of oil. So we produced that product, and all of the wealth that we produced was then handed over to these princes, and then they used it to do 9/11. So that was all very bad. We should have kept control of any means, including turning Saudi Arabia into an overseas Hawaii of some kind, or Alaska. Saudi Arabia should resemble Alaska in the desert. That's what we should have done when they decided that they were going to nationalize our oil infrastructure. We should have said, oh, well, that's the end of your regime then, guys. You are now out of business. That's what we should have done. What should we do with China? We should not be strengthening them. We should not be strengthening them. Now, as for, he says something earlier on about tools, Harbor Freight tools. My opinion of Harbor Freight tools is if you're going to use the tool one time to do one job in your backyard, you should probably just get the Harbor Freight version. And about half the time it's not actually going to work the way it's supposed to. You got ripped off, you're a sucker. And the other half of the time it might work okay. But it's not going to work for very long, and it's not going to do a very good job. So if you're buying it for something you have to do over and over and over, really tough jobs where you really need a good quality product, Harbor Freight tools are garbage, and you're going to have to go to Home Depot. And know the stuff at Home Depot is not made in America. I bought some saws. I used to saw a lot of wood for fun. And yes, for fun. I used to cut down trees with a hand axe, with a hatchet, not even an axe. It was a hatchet. I used to cut down trees with a hatchet for fun. Okay, so I got this saw at Home Depot one day. I'm looking for a saw, and there's Stanley, made in USA. Used to be based in New Britain, Connecticut. Now they're based in China. They just got their headquarters in Connecticut. So I got your Stanley saws there. There's a couple of saws that are called Husky brand, which is Home Depot's brand or something like that, or HDX brand. I can't remember. They got some cheap-ass saws there. And there's Made in America Stanley. But there's this weird-looking one. This blue and yellow plastic handle. And the blade was this attractive gray. And I said, what the hell kind of saw is that? And the teeth looked different from all the other saws. So, and it was the most expensive one. It was $27 for this hand saw. The Stanley was $15, and the Home Depot unit was $9.99. Now, you could definitely get them for $5 at Harbor Freight Tools. Definitely. Now, I already had a Stanley one at home, but it was rusty. So I was just getting a new saw. So I knew what the Stanley performed like. Now I looked on where is this made. This Stanley's made in America. Fine, now they make most of their shit in China. But what about this one, this blue one? Did I already say it's made in Denmark? Now I didn't know anything about the tooth design on this. I knew nothing at all about this type of saw. But I said to myself, if somebody in Denmark is spending their time making a saw, it's got to be a damn good saw. Nobody in Denmark is spending their time making trash. Now, you and I could discuss that for hours, why that would be the case. but it is the case that people in wealthy countries don't spend their time making trash. So I bought that saw, and it was way good. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was a pleasure to cut with it. Oh, it was amazing. All right, I'm off on that. So that's what I think of your Harbor Freight tools. Garbage. Okay, I know Harbor Freight. All right, now I can't remember what we started this video on, but I think I finished my point on that, and then I just wanted to pick on the tools thing there, and I think I'm done with that. Now I might do more response to more of the stuff. This is a 2-hour-long video, and I just played 10 seconds, so I may do more. But I think that this was a nice self-contained thought, and if you want good tools, buy the expensive ones. They work, and they last.